Hey, good day everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Display Solutions of America. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who have been tuning into this series since early 2020, it's hard to believe, I'd like to welcome you back. As you know, we develop these webinars so that our customers, resellers, integrators, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products and solutions. Today, I'm pleased to welcome you to a special Tech Tuesday takeover, where you'll hear from a lively panel of industry thought leaders who came together at one of our recent Sony roadshows to discuss the intersection of AI, innovation, and transformation. So sit back and enjoy this panel, led by Rich Ventura, the Vice President of Sony Professional Display Solutions, as he engages with Brian McClymans, Vice President of Sales for Peerless AV, Michelle Montezeri, Director of Digital Signage for Legrand, Andy Bennett, the Senior Vice President of Commercial Sales for Crestron, and we round out the panel with Paul Alley, Director of Technology for AppSpace. And listen as they share their thoughts on how these forward-looking topics will continue to shape the future of our industry. Before we start, just a few items of housekeeping. As with all of our webinars, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A, so please submit your questions via the in-event meeting questions panel. But because today's presentation is pre-recorded, we'll get back to each of your questions once the webinar concludes. As in the past, we will post links to information referred to during the webinar on the chat panel, and we'll also post a link to our YouTube playlist where you can view all of our archived Tech Tuesday webinars. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.
All right. How are we doing, everybody? Good day today? So don't worry, please keep eating, enjoy drinks. This is really going to be more of a conversation up here, just talking about a lot of trends, things that we're all hearing. Definitely a lot of stuff we saw last week. Those of us who ventured over to Barcelona, share a little bit about that. I definitely want to real quick have the panel here introduce themselves, their backgrounds. And we'll kind of go from there. It's really going to be free-flowing and have a lot of good conversation. Sound good? Sounds good. Cool. So maybe we'll go real quick across the line here.
Grab this. I'm Brian McClymans with Peerless AV. Been in the industry for about 30-some years. Met a lot of the folks here many times, and it's been a good time being in our industry. ISE was fantastic. I look forward to getting into our conversation about that.
We have to share a microphone, which is super weird. So Michelle Montezeri with Legrand. We did. We're
but you haven't been in here for 30 plus years.
No, 30 plus years ago I would have been, we'll talk about that. I've been with Legrand for 13 years. I'm Director of Digital Signage. For those that aren't familiar with Legrand, we are Chief, C2G, Middle Atlantic, all the brands that you guys are super familiar with already. And it wasn't me, I swear. I didn't make him choke, I swear. So looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so I'm Andy Bennett, Senior Vice President of Commercial for Crestron Electronics. Been with Crestron about 13 years, prior integrator, before joining the manufacturing side, or what we refer to as the dark side of the business. Looking forward to a great conversation.
So I'm Paul Alley with AppSpace. I'm the newbie here. I've only been with AppSpace and in this vertical for about 3.5 years now, but with great partners like I'm sitting with here today, I've learned a lot very quick. So happy to be here, Rich and team. Thanks so much for including us as always, and look forward to the conversation.
So let's actually talk, since it's pretty fresh in some of our minds last week. Those who didn't make it over to Barcelona, two things stood out to me. Number one, 120,000 registrations. Think about it, 120,000 registrations. And I believe the number came out to be, is it 78,000? 79,000 actual people attending. Now, who here goes to InfoComm every year? guarantee there hasn't been 79,000 people at Infocom, right? Which is not a knock on Infocom, it's a different type of show. Is it safe to say that the industry finally has come back? I mean, I don't think we've ever been that number at ISE prior. And I know the other thing I will say that was probably the most eye-opening, was great to see, that the U.S. contingency came over pretty hard. I want to say I had 46, 47 meetings in 3 days, and 90% of those were U.S.-based companies. The other were Canadian-based companies. Thinking about what you guys have heard and seen, those who were there, saw, or those from a distance, what did you guys hear coming from your customers or your people about what you saw at ISE? Maybe we'll start at the far end, Paul. I mean, what have you guys heard and saw?
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I think that the industry is back without a doubt. We were absolutely slammed, and I think everyone I passed by the booths that are up here was equally as busy. It's interesting, especially in our space where we really focus on workplace experience. There's been this back and forth for quite a while now with organizations really trying to make the decision and mandate, if you will, of what employees are going to do. Are they coming back to the office? If they do, what does that look like? How do we create this experience with our technology partners to ensure that we're a destination? That's really what it's coming to now, is the workplace needs to be a destination with the employee at the center, and we heard that time and time again from our largest customers last week. So I think it's really energizing to have that confirmation and know that what we're doing is making an impact, and the partnerships that we're continuing to build are also influencing the direction in which these customers are choosing to go.
Yeah, I definitely saw in your guys' booth, what little I got to walk around, everything was about globalization of our business, right? And I know, Andy, that's a big thing for you. And more and more of our customers are not just happy with what they can get in San Diego. They're saying, what can I get in Turkey? What can I get in India? And I think that was a big part of your guys' story as well, the booth.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that was most reaffirming to me is that the custom installation industry is back stronger than ever. One of the things that was a giant fear for all of us in this space was, what was it going to look like post-COVID, with everybody kind of leaving work or leaving big enterprise buildings? What kind of demand was there going to be coming back? Was our market going to be taken up by, some of the main UC predominant suppliers in our industry? Were we going to be engulfed by teams? Was there going to be a need for custom integration? And I think really the message that I took away from that show is, there's a bigger demand for all of us than ever before, to really deliver the customer experience that people want, both near and far end. It requires a lot more hardware. It's not just a PC on a monitor where you have no physical connection to the far end, right? So more displays, more cameras, more integration, more control, and more data and analytics on the back end in terms of what's going on inside of all these custom spaces. So the excitement that we felt in the booth was really pre-COVID, and I haven't felt that since then. There really was this sense of the custom install industry is back stronger than ever. There's more of a demand for technology in these large spaces, and customers now know what they're looking for. They're not just mass adopting, pieces and parts to create a standard. Like you said, Rich, it's now truly a global standard that they're looking to deploy.
Oh, definitely. And Michelle, I wandered as little as I could once again, because my team decided to book me solid. I know, Andy, you're the same way, and Brian, you're the same way too. I did get to pop in your guys' booth for a little bit as well, and I think the thing that I saw was so much around solutions and interoperability and engagement, and I saw it with all of you guys. I mean, what all did you see and hear from your team?
Yeah, so our big focus, I think the word solution has probably been overused in the industry the last decade, but our clients are hungry for, are these products vetted to work together? And how do I apply them to create a really cool experience? I don't want to see individual products anymore. I want to see full solutions that actually can deploy and tell a story. I was talking to somebody earlier today about, a lot of our integrators are, at the end user level, are selling internally. And if they don't have a good story to share internally, it makes their job a lot harder. So the other thing that the attendants at ISE told me from afar is people are hungry for innovation. They walked away saying, what did I learn? What did I take away? We've been missing, the market innovation for quite some time, for the last couple of years. And it's up to us as manufacturers to figure out what innovation looks like and bring new things to the table. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I, Brian, we had a couple of meetings and I walked down their space, and I think the thing I noticed was it wasn't the normal tire kickers. There truly were people coming with projects, and they wanted to say how you can help solve that for them. I think that was a piece that I saw a lot of you talking through. And I know, Brian, we had a couple of partners that we talked through that as well. And you and I have been going to ISE for quite a long time. I seriously think this was by far the best ISE we've ever seen.
Yeah, this brought back memories of some of the best ones. There was one that was at, I think it was maybe 2019 in Amsterdam, was 83,000. And this felt even bigger. But I think the interesting part of it is everybody said how, challenging 2023. But everybody I talked to said that their January 24 was great, off to a great start. And I really like to hear that. And these are all the people, and several of the people are back here at this event here. So again, the globalization, but also just the partnerships. I think that's really what came to it. You know, just the solutions, like what you had said. I mean, the partnerships, nobody here can do everything. And it really, that is one thing that everybody learned during COVID is you can't rely just on one company to do something. It's a team. If one of us is hurting, we're all hurting. You all have to help together, and we all have to try and fix the solution and solve it.
Yeah, and I think that dovetails really well. And you think about 3.5 years ago. I mean, I'll be 4 years at Sony in June. It's kind of amazing how quick that. Some days it seems a little longer, but it's amazing how those 4 years went. 4 years ago, so we're in the middle really of COVID. We're in the middle of it, and if you look at how the market was and where it is today, I see more optimism than I think we've seen in a while. I think we saw that optimism in 21. 21 was like, holy crap, we can't even keep the product in the doors. But then we saw 22, 23 is like, oh my God. Now we go into 24 and we're starting to see that optimism coming back. I mean, what are you guys seeing? Andy, I'll start with you a little bit. What are you guys seeing from that optimism perspective?
Look, the optimism is huge, and it came from kind of testing the waters in terms of what solutions existed, post-COVID. You use the word globalization. I can't say anything better than that. People understand now, in order to deliver the customer experience that we're all expecting, it does require globalization. It does require standardization, and it does require ultimately everybody in this industry to work together to deliver that solution. I totally agree that there's not the one solution provider. There's not the one-stop shop like there is in other avenues, parallel to our business. But what we see is that hungry desire to adopt a technology standard that delivers kind of a global experience.
So Michelle, I mean, what are you thinking or seeing in here when you look at this optimism we're hearing in 2024?
Well, isn't it refreshing? 23 was
Oh my God.
exhausting, and I think, one of the things we learned is the lack of optimism led to a lot of challenges that we probably could have avoided had we maybe had an optimistic view. But I also think I lost my train of thought, and I'm optimistic that I'll figure it out.
Well, no, I think one thing you said though, I mean, it's important is I think we stifled innovation last year.
Yes.
I mean, we were so focused, like, oh, man, I got to get another 100 widgets out the door. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to get my supply chain. I got to do this. I got to do this. Oh, wait, the year's over. I didn't innovate anything. I didn't ideate anything. Oh God, now I got ISC. Didn't ideate. Well, now I got Infocom in a few months. I'm not ready yet because ideation doesn't happen overnight. And I do think that 23 really stifled a lot of the innovation that we've all been known for in our industry.
Yes, and it's a big thing in Legrand. Yes, and I think what we learned also is you have to be prepared for a year like 23. And so where you maybe traditionally saw spend in certain vertical markets that could no longer spend, where did those dollars go? Somebody's keeping the economy alive. And so as manufacturers, we had to maybe change our thought a little bit and think about some new markets and some new innovation in vertical markets that we hadn't played in. Innovation doesn't necessarily mean product, but it means how do we apply things that we've been using in retail environments in transportation. Transportation is a huge growth market for everybody. So I think we're optimistic about their spend, and we just got to go figure out where it is.
Yeah, and I think we have to figure out how we get it, right? So Paul, I remember a year and a half ago, one of the big topics when we looked at 23 was this whole office automation and workplace management. Is that still something you guys are seeing driving? I mean, as we look at 24 and the optimism opportunities, is that still an area, or is it, are we off to a next idea?
No, it's absolutely, I would say, stronger than ever. It's probably where the heritage of our business, as many of you know, has been in the digital signage space. We're now probably a 60-40 mix of 40% in workspace experience, and that's only going to continue to grow. I think the one thing that we have to continue to focus on as well is understanding that the communication needs are still there and a big part of the business, but our customers, like everyone has shared up here, are pushing us, way out of our comfort zone and helping lead the innovation on our side. And what we're seeing is it's not just, hey, AppSpace do this. They're looking to us to engage you all in packaging these solutions that solve challenges. And we're seeing budgets move and shift all over the organization to support these initiatives. The other interesting thing that I'm seeing around all of this workplace experience is it's really also elevating another or a whole nother audience of buyers or people participating in these initiatives. So before we were doing a lot of engaging with IT, now we're seeing operations and facilities and the C-suite and all of these different stakeholders that have so much riding on innovation and how it's going to drive and change their business going forward. So it is full steam ahead for us as it relates to workplace management, and many of those initiatives are not going to be able to be accomplished without us being hand in hand doing a lot of these things.
So Brian, I mean, we talk about this optimism we're seeing. I mean, we're all being cautiously optimistic right now, but I do think there are deals out there and we're seeing more of it. I mean, what was your sense of feeling after coming out of ISE and everything, besides the dread of, oh God, I got a 15-hour flight ahead of me? But really, what are you thinking, or what are you seeing?
It's interesting. I was looking at that touch screen back there from TSI. It reminds me of a conversation we had virtually back in 2020, and everybody talking about the fears of touch, and it wouldn't come back. And Gary's like, people will touch. It's natural. We want to touch. What ISE taught me this year is people will come back together. I mean, there was always this, we pull back, like you say, in 2023, and even before, people pull back. They're afraid to expand. What 2024's ISE taught me was people are back and ready to talk and innovate. And I went there really looking at what AI is going to do in our industry. And unfortunately, I didn't see a lot there. I saw a lot of people talking about it. I did see only one company that was showing it successfully. And even one of our integrators in our space, they were actually using it to show their customers visualization capabilities. So I think that that's going to come together, and we're going to start seeing a little bit more of that coming into our place. And I'm just a hardware guy talking about this, but I need to understand what's that next thing that's going to make the consultants spec our product over somebody else's, over the next ones. We have to try. But that's really what I saw is the next thing that might be bringing us there is the AI and just the people coming together to have the conversations about the opportunities that exist.
Yeah, I mean, AI is an interesting conversation, especially in this building. So if you think about what you're able to do today with AI applications, you could say, create a picture for me. Well, that's great and all, but that's pretty scary what you can do with it, right? And so you look at Sony, if you spend some of you spend some time with our DI team and looking at our cameras, that's a big concern for us, right? Because now people are auto-generating photographs that we normally would take on an alpha. And so now there's a lot of things we have to look at, watermarking and things like that. Then you start going further in AI, and you probably saw with our AI cameras and tracking, but then we start looking at content, and we start looking at analytics. AI is like everywhere. I do not think there's a single space in our business we cannot use the term AI. I mean, I even saw an integrator came up to me and said, look at this. And he grabbed an AI app and he said, create a restaurant code, turn on a Sony Bravia display, and do this. And it created the entire code in front of him. That's pretty scary. So think about all the developers and guys who are doing the coding for us, right? Now all of a sudden you could be going, well, I don't need you anymore. I can do this on here, which isn't the case because probably there's probably 80% of it had errors in it and it wasn't tested. That's where people are starting to use AI. So it is a scary thing. And I think the bigger question of the conversation needs to be less maybe about AI, because I think we're all kind of tired of hearing about that, is how much has IT itself, software, all the things we're using in the IT world really has penetrated this space. And I'm gonna start with you, Michelle. And we've always had the argument of AV versus IT. I don't think it's an argument anymore. I think it's truly IT and AV is one. It really is. What are you seeing? And you talk to customers and everything like that. Yes, you're in the mountains, but still, it doesn't matter. We're having the same conversations with the same people.
I agree. And when I started in the digital signage space, I was like, man, digital signage is kind of the bridge. In a conversation where AV and IT are sitting in two different worlds, we keep talking about them coming together, but where do they really come together? And I feel like in digital signage they do, and that's a selfish endeavor. But I excuse me. I think we talked about vested parties and making decisions. IT has an integral space or place in our space, and they're starting to make more decisions as we talk about security required for all of these platforms we're integrating into our spaces. Data analytics, the monetization of displays. I was talking about with one of the gentlemen from Nabori, Michael back there, about every display that we look at in the next 5 years will be monetized. Every display. And so we're going to be sold to no matter where you look, which is a little bit of a scary thing. But how do we make every single device secure? And that's where IT really plays a big part in AV, in at least my opinion.
Are you okay with questions?
You can, yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
So, at each of your respective companies, what would you say you are doing, or would you like to or wish to? Oh, do I get one of these? Wow. At each of your respective companies, what would you say that you would like to or wish to do to bridge the gap between AV and IT? Because I know just from some of my experience locally that with an end user that that we're just they just want to say that we're not allowed in. So how do we get to be to that point where we say, okay, we're going to all play in the sandbox together, and what endeavors have you started or would you like to start at your respective companies? Okay, take this away.
So maybe I'll start, Andy. You got a mic.
Look, it's a difficult topic to really broach because, in my opinion, AV and IT converged almost a decade ago. They really did, and we saw all the flash articles, 5-6 years ago that came out about the convergence of AV and IT. But as AV folks, IT kind of became the crux of our backbone a long time ago. And it wasn't so much about teaching AV people IT, it was more about teaching IT people AV, right? And that's really the biggest difference that I see is those things have converged now. They exist on a singular network together. They have to coexist in a space that delivers the customer experience that ultimately all of our customers are expecting. In terms of your direct question respectively, what one thing would I like to change is it's just continuing the education around that topic of conversation. That not confining yourself into a space that is specifically AV or IT. Again, in my view, those things have converged and they converge very quickly. But it's educating our customers on how they can be beneficial together. You kind of, and I'm going to tangent here for a minute, so forgive me. But you bring up the topic of AI. And again, I think it's overgeneralized and it's overused and we really haven't seen what it's going to become yet. But it's no different than when the World Wide Web was first introduced. When that was first introduced, there was this fear that it was going to eliminate the need for all of us and it was going to eliminate jobs. And ultimately, when we harnessed the power of the internet, it helped every single person's life to be better. Are there negative sides to it? Absolutely. But that's human nature to find good and bad in almost everything that we encounter. So the thing that I want to continue to promote is to not be the roadblock to technology enhancement, to allow it to come to you and use it for the power of good that gives us the opportunity to be stronger. There's never going to be a time where there's not a need for a personal connection. And there's no AI out there that will ever eliminate that. So maybe it does put pressure on our coders because AI can code better, but maybe that frees those guys up to be able to do something more efficiently and generate something that's, a stronger contribution to our society. So, look, the one thing I would suggest is embrace it, embrace technology. That's why we're all in this space, is because we love technology. And the more that we resist and the more that we push back, the only thing we're doing is slowing our developmental abilities. And Rich, you kind of hit the nail right on the head. We all stopped innovating over the last couple of years. We all did, because we were frozen by what is coming to the market. And what we need to understand is we're the people that decide what comes to the market. We're those people that make that decision. So we shouldn't be, afraid to grasp it. We shouldn't be afraid to learn about it. And we certainly shouldn't be afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, Paul, my mic decided it wanted to die.
I agree 100% with what you just said. There you go.
Me too.
We still get that third?
Me agree.
Yep.
So, I got a lot of voice. Everybody can hear me, but there we go. So, Paul, you coming from being the software side of it, immediately everybody thinks, well, that's AV-IT merged. But you guys were doing this before we had the conversation maybe on IT. How much is cloud, which came over from the IT side, how much has that really transformed your business?
I mean, cloud is everything that we do today. We're seeing, actually, from the software side, we're not releasing any of our new features into our former on-premise solution. So you want to take advantage of all the bells and whistles. We have found and we've developed our platform to provide the best experience in the cloud. Now, the one thing we've seen as we've worked closer with IT and AV is everybody wants their flavor of cloud. So, for example, we're in a big project right now to start offering multi-cloud environments and more advanced private clouds that are bringing security in. But we're also finding ourselves being the kind of the conduit between a lot of teams that don't traditionally speak in organizations. And so we're there trying to broker conversations and bring these organizations or these teams within organizations together so that they can see the benefit of joining forces. It's no longer IT and AV, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that we'll continue to educate, we'll continue to pull as many champions within the organizations as we can together when we're selling our solutions. But yeah, went off on a little.
So, probably one of the big things that I think what's really important about an event like this, right, is one of the big focal points that we started at Sony, it's been about 3.5 years ago, was this whole thing about alliances. And I think, Andy, you brought it up, I think Michelle might have mentioned it as well, is and even Brian, none of us can do this alone. There's not a single person in this room who can say, I can do everything by myself. Trust me, some have tried. Some are trying right now. We'll see how they do. Nobody can do that, right? And I think the importance of alliances, and what I'd be kind of curious is, how has that maybe transformed your view of the business and the industry, and how's that maybe transformed your business when you look at things like alliances? And I'll start with Brian. But just kind of really curious how this has impacted your business.
Yeah, what's impacted it is we've decided, to focus on certain partnerships and alliances that we have, because you can't be everything to everyone. You have to be very specialist to the ones that you partner with, and you go in together on an opportunity to help close it, because everybody knows you don't have the order until you have the order. And we all kind of push and pull to try and get that in 23. But really what it needs to come down to is you need to stay focused with the partners that you're in there with and go at it with them. And you win some, you lose some, but you're a team member on that, because you really can't do it all, and you're lying to the end customer if anybody could say, hey, I can do it all, because you end up falling on your face on those. So you do need to help work on it. Obviously there's a lot with the cloud. Companies like us, we bring the cloud down to reality where it touches it and we secure it to the wall. So there has to be something where it seats in, foot on the ground.
I'll add that we do a little bit more than that, but yes. We're not just bent metal anymore, Brian.
Well, we make it sense.
If we could change this to cocktails and controversies, Brian and I could go for hours.
Well, we'll get some more cocktails going. We need the tequila and the bourbon first.
I will say personally, one of the things I love most about our industry are partnerships. It's getting to know one another and having personal friendships that span much beyond what we're doing on our day-to-day, right? Our 9 to 5. But what I really respect about partnerships most, and what I think is really important, is we keep each other accountable. So I can go out and make lots of promises about what my product can do, but when Rich comes in and says, yeah, that's actually not true, and here's all the reasons, and/or, wow, Legrand's making me look bad because they didn't deliver on time, et cetera, whatever it is, or Peerless made me look bad because they didn't deliver on time.
We're in stock.
It keeps us accountable. We do, because there's always somebody waiting in the wing, right? And so I love that. I love that pressure to make my friends look really good and be a good, really good partner. I think it's my favorite thing about this industry. I love it.
Andy, what do you think?
I can't speak highly enough about alliances, Rich. I mean, I'll start with you. Look, if we didn't have Crestron connected and Sony displays, then really our XIO kind of goes to the point of no end, right? I mean, it's great to have hardware in a room that can deliver video to a monitor, but if I can't tell you if that monitor's on or off, it doesn't really add the value that we want to add to our end customer, right? So having a partner like Sony, I mean, obviously we love mounts, we love bent metal, sexy or not, because it helps make those monitors do what they do. But look, even over to AppSpace, that's a platform that we formed a partnership with that really took digital signage to the next level for Crestron. So, again, it is like what Michelle said, it's holding us all accountable, right, to the betterment of the industry. And when you adopt this singular mentality of, hey, I can carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, the end result is you fail. So it's having those alliances and those partnerships that continue to push the industry forward.
Paul, I know that this is a pretty big topic. We've had lots of conversations about this.
Yeah, this is one area that I'm super passionate about. And I think it took me a while in my career to really understand the value of alliances. And really that was the sole reason that I joined the AppSpace team 3.5 years ago, was to really focus on bringing that channel to life. Look, I see a lot of titles up here that say sales, and targets aren't getting any smaller, especially after we just came back from ISE. So I think that, for any of us to think we can sit up here and go it alone is absolutely impossible. And, we've got a thing at AppSpace that the more we can circle the wagon, and as we're working opportunities together, and many times, I talked to Bob and he's like, what are you working on? We're working on this. Oh, so we are too. And here's a little bit of that back to bridging the gap between AV and IT that you mentioned a minute ago. Many times our alliances are who inform us of other things going on within the organization that are just awareness and opportunities for us to better position ourselves in the opportunity or within the customer. So I think that we'll continue to put a huge emphasis on this. One thing that we kind of govern ourselves by, there was a book that was given to us by a gentleman at another organization that a number of our leaders worked together before. He came for the role of a CMO, and we ended up not hiring him. And he left this book for us, and it was called The Go-Giver. And it was really all about, leveraging people around you and giving to your alliances and leaning on your alliances to really kind of, karma's going to pay you back ultimately in the long run. So that's really what we focus on at AppSpace. It's, we're software. We're not the cloud all the way back to the wall. We're just kind of up there, and, without Crestron and Sony and everybody to kind of put our product or our images front and center, then, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, and I think what is really important as we all think about, let's go back to our earlier conversation, we're talking about the optimism of the year, talking all these things. What's probably really critical is how do we get to that sale faster, right? And I think alliances, and even, we have frenemies in the industry, right? I mean, these two are actually nicer to each other than normal. But there are times when you do look at it and say, I can't do that, but I do know they can do it. And I think the tighter we are as an industry, and I think that was probably the most important thing when we look at alliances, we look at the industry, is how do we embrace together? And, trade associations try their hardest to help us do that, right? We look at AVIXA, we look at CDIA, we look at the DSF, but unless we as manufacturers, all of us, actually take the step and do it, doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. So maybe shifting a little bit, let's talk a little bit about vertical markets. And I think if we look at these last couple of years, I don't think there's a single manufacturer who could raise their hand right now that says they do not focus on vertical markets. I mean, we've all changed, right? COVID told us to change. What markets are selling? How are we going to sell into this? How are we going to focus on them? Let's look at about what we've got here in front of us. What do you think are some of the growing vertical markets and why? Where do you think we have those opportunities at? I'll start, Brian, we'll kind of work this way back. What are those markets you think you have opportunities or you see opportunities for the industry, and why?
I don't want to say anything that she's going to pick up on. She's taking notes. No, but she actually already explored it with transportation. Transportation, I don't know, there's a rail, bus, airport in the nation that doesn't have something going on under construction. And the beauty of transportation is video has actually been put into, they're judged. All the airports globally are judged based on certain factors, and video and digital is now part of it. So all the airports are out there going, I got to figure out what to do here, because nobody wants to look like the old LaGuardia, out there anymore. And now if anybody's gone to the new LaGuardia, it's unbelievable. And Newark has a new section there. I mean, JFK does. I mean, airports that everybody used to dread going to, Dallas, they need to fix that. Hey now. But transportation is where the government funding has been going to. Education was really soft last year. Let's hope the government puts some money back in that area. But commercial applications, there's a lot of new buildings and corporations going up in New York. They're also putting video in throughout the entire areas. So that's a vertical that's growing. Museums, you wouldn't believe it, but museums are really reinvesting. They've got a lot of money in there. And universities, higher education is actually having to compete much more difficultly with getting students into their facilities. So they're trying to make sure that their experience, they want people to come in there and look at their university on that parents' weekend, that they look like they've reinvested in their university. And so again, that's where our industry really shines, because it's a visual industry. We help communicate digitally to those people and make them look with technology that, hey, this is a new exciting area.
Yeah, and I think it's tough for universities. I was talking with the USC team about this. Is we have all these conferences merging, right? Now you have everybody coming to join us in the Big Ten. You got the SEC. They're competing in a whole new world now, and then you got to add an NIL and everything else. Universities have to transform, and so they're not just competing for the brightest minds. They're also competing for the 6'8", 350-pound offensive lineman to go to your school versus another one, right? So I mean, there's a lot of changes for universities.
So I'm going to make maybe a controversial comment, but I don't know that there's a vertical market that is more powerful than another. It's the applications within that market. So you can pick any vertical today and say, all right, where are they spending this year? Because there's cash. There's cash across the board, but where are they actually implementing their dollars? In education, it's in safety, right? Which safety and security across the campus is really, really important, and recruitment. But personally, where we're really focused on is the restaurant industry. So quick serve restaurants, I think, are exploding. We're seeing drive-throughs everywhere, thanks to the last couple years. And then retail, and I've already kind of mentioned retail media networks, but how can a company monetize their displays in their space? That is such a hot topic. And then anywhere where data analytics play a part. So manufacturing facilities right now are such a great opportunity for us, and I think we can, that's where AI probably plays a big part. We didn't really talk about that, but how do we as technology specialists go into a space and help manufacturing facilities become more efficient?
Yeah, and I know one of the partners that's here, Userful, that's a big focus in their space, right? Is that manufacturing space, and we're definitely seeing a lot of spend happening there. And in warehouses, I mean, warehouse facilities are popping up everywhere, right? And they know that they have to optimize the space, they have to utilize it the right way. I mean, if a company runs out of warehouse space, it's very expensive to add more space. Trust me, I got a lot of inventory right now.
Yeah, so this is the time where I have a dilemma of, do I tip my hat to my competition and talk about where we're focused, or do I just, speak agnostically to what matters to us? But look, you guys kind of already all hit on it. It's chasing the money and where the dollar goes, and verticalization has been a big change in our focus. We actually reorged 2 years ago to be very vertically focused. We actually found that there was really a discombobulation and team cohesion by being as vertically focused, right? So we made a change recently to go back to being kind of more regionally aligned, to be more collaborative, because what we understood is that if we're going to chase a specific vertical, we have to do it with our partners, and we have to do it with our dealers, right? We can't just go at it alone and take on the weight of the world. higher education is definitely there's a massive change that's going on in the traditional classroom. So, we're seeing a lot of funding, and Chi and Roger sitting in the crowd, so I kind of tip my hat to them. Look, they were the early adopters and the first guys to kind of break down the wall of what does the new age classroom look like, and how do we adopt that kind of AV and IT mentality. And so they've now forged a path that a lot of other universities are looking to do. They want to integrate a UC solution into the classroom so they can have a far end and a near end, really solution to all of their customers, because their students are their customers. We've seen a radical shift in the way we've traditionally done business with the enterprise customers. The enterprise customers were traditionally very compartmentalized. We are focused on, high-end custom boardrooms, divide combine rooms, and now what we've seen the shift go into is kind of entertainment spaces. As they try to draw people back to the office, they're not enticed by a cubicle. They're enticed by an event space. They're enticed by something that's being offered by their employer that traditionally they haven't seen in an enterprise space. And, really one of the biggest booms that we've seen really in the last 2 years is government spending. The amount of revenue that is now making its way to DoD and DOJ and really, kind of the military back end because of what's going on around the globe has been a huge vertical focus for us to try to capture kind of some more of that bond money that exists out there.
Yeah, I think federal spend in AV is 10x what it was 5 years before COVID. And if you don't have a federal strategy, get one quick. There's a lot of money sitting there. And I will say from an integrator perspective, there's a lot of integrators that have shifted in the last 6 months. We've seen a lot of integrators introducing it and announcing federal teams. Federal business is it's crazy how quick that's growing.
I think I'm going to put together a airport strategy when I leave here with Brian. But I kind of agree with what you've heard thus far. We're seeing just a massive uplift in the higher ed space, probably serving north of 150 higher ed institutions globally. Pharma is another huge space for us, and manufacturing as well. And it's interesting when you start looking at the use cases around signage that were traditionally around, static information. Hey, here's your updated OSHA information or whatever it may be, where we're in organizations now providing analytics around production efficiencies and health and safety on the line, how long production lines have been running without error. So we're seeing more sensor data really be pulled in to fuel the data that's being put on the signage. So those are probably the big ones. We're vertical inclusive, so we like to work with everyone. But
Is that a news?
yeah,
That I've never heard that before, but it's interesting
yeah. So
It's chasing the dollars.
to digest that.
No, we're helping people solve challenges with solutions. Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of wrap up, and I think I'm just going to leave actually for one more question for each one of you guys. And if you look back over these last 3 to 5 years, what's the one thing you wish you would have known now?
How great the Peerless AV party is at Infocom.
Oh, come on now.
What I wish I knew 5 years ago. No. Getting old is not great. Oh, we're not talking personal stuff. Oh,
Come on now.
business.
But you did learn how good Scotch was this year, so.
That if I owned a freight company, that I would make a lot of money. Right? I mean, any of us hardware guys would say the past 3 years, the only people that made money in our industry were the shipping companies. And it wasn't our fault that we had to raise our prices. Just know this.
I concur with that. The last 3 to 5 years, we've got to adapt. We have to be as large and as behemoth as some of us become as manufacturers. You have to be adaptable to market changes. If we learned nothing over the last 3 years, it is unpredictable what could happen tomorrow. And to Andy's point, I think we can use technology to be more adaptable. And so embracing it, I think, is really important. I'll take that one home with me.
Look, from my perspective, this is a super easy answer. As many of you know, we faced probably one of the most horrific supply chain challenges in our industry. So if I could go back 3 to 5 years, we would have hoarded silicone wafers and small parts, and we would have held them hostage from the rest of the globe so that we could have continued on the trajectory that we absolutely did not see coming out of COVID.
I think from our perspective, we would have, embraced the voice of the customer a little more. And obviously there were a couple of years there where we could not be out in front. And a lot of the development work we were doing was based on kind of what we thought the use cases were. And then we were trying to push those use cases into organizations. And we found that to be super challenging. So, going back, focusing more on, customer stories, customer use cases would definitely have advanced us faster. But, there you go. Right.
Well, those who know me know I hate sitting. I want to thank the panel, but I also want to thank all of you who came and stayed here for the day. Those who flew in and attended this. This is not the first and only time we're doing this. This is going to become a yearly event. We want to continue to grow it. We can only do that with all of you being part of this. So I want to thank you for spending time with us at Sony. We got another whole day tomorrow. I think we got, another hour or so left to open till 7. Keep talking, keep engaging. The important thing is we talked about the importance of alliances, but it's also the importance of all of us engaging together. So thank you, everyone. Let's have a great rest of the day and tomorrow. Thank you.